I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another night of iRacing action. The only league we've got with our own theme song, and it is fantastic. The TNT Shock Series coming to you live from Twin Ring Motegi. This is Chris Graham with the National Racing Network. It's a pleasure to have you hanging out with us tonight here, and we're looking forward to a fun show. Practice is just about wrapping up. Kylo Ciacelli is going to be quickest. Nagisio Shikawa, Brian Labarge rounding out the practice podium, but we know what practice means. We're talking about practice, man. Practice. Not a game. Practice. Now it's time for the real deal to get going. Qualifying about to roll out 10 minutes of open qualifying. Joined in the booth tonight by the Bizzler, Mr. Patrick Byrne. What's going on, buddy? How are you feeling this evening?
I am feeling fantastic. My truck broke down outside of work. Not to worry, I work next to a brewery, so I am well lubricated for tonight.
Oh, we love it when the talent is describing themselves as well lubricated before we ever get started. That's a good sign for the night. It's going to be a great night. That's going to be a fantastic night. Interesting stuff. We've had some, well, drama after last week's race at the Motegi Oval. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we're back to Motegi. This time we're doing things on the road course. This is really a different feel here, Patrick, because this is the type of place where, yes, it can be high speed, but there's a really good chance things get strung out a little bit. It's going to be about managing tires, managing fuel, and really playing the strategy game here in a 50-minute race tonight.
This is a very technical track. I've only run the Motegi road course once in an Indy car, and it took me, it was a couple years ago, but I remember it took me about a week and a half to just learn the track. It may look very simple. If you look at it on paper, you look at a track map, it seems pretty easy. 2 hairpins, you maybe have a right-left sequence here, and you're good. But this track is so difficult to string the corners together, and that's what's really important here, because each corner is preceded by a long straightaway. So you have to maximize your exits off each corner, and then in the sequences, you have to make sure you're keeping the speed up for those straightaways. It is a very, very difficult track to drive.
Yeah, we were
At least
actually.
drive fast.
I was talking to Wes Shire about this before during practice a little bit, and he was talking about how this place is going to be really, really difficult to make the laps consistently, and this is going to be a race about who makes fewer mistakes. Even little ones, trying to get through that section of S's, that's really difficult. You cost yourself a ton of time on exit, a big long straightaway down into a tight braking zone. That one mistake in the S's is going to screw you up for 3 or 4 corners.
Not only that, with how long these straightaways are, if you make one little bobble, you have to step out of the gas a little bit. You could close somebody in the drafting range, and if someone gets into your drafting range or you get into someone's drafting range, that could be the difference between passing them well before the braking zone or fighting them through the corner.
Yeah,
so,
it's definitely going to be interesting to watch for sure.
Oh yeah, this is a track, you kind of got to play defense a little bit. You can't be on the offensive trying to dive it into a braking zone, because if you do, they'll just cross you over and get you halfway down the straightaway. So you really have to plan out your moves laps in advance. This is a track where it really comes down to playing chess, not checkers. This is really, it's a Japanese mindset for a Japanese track, and when Honda decided to go build this track, it's probably their best project ever. Much better than Suzuka, in my opinion, but I'm a little biased.
It's awesome. Brian Labarge, who we are following along with here, the Walcott, Connecticut native, one of the series rookies, setting quick time thus far. Well, he was quick time. Now Jason Miller going to move to the top of the speed charts. Kaukauna, Wisconsin native. He says he's not very interesting. We'll take a look here and pick up the number 3. The Scotty McLaughlin, Joseph Newgarden PPG Paints scheme here on the number 3 machine. Down to 6 minutes left in qualifying. It is not open qualifying. It is solo. So we were fed a little bit of bad information by the series admins. But everybody's going to get their chance to turn, their 2 laps here, I would imagine, at least, under the qualifying session. Labarge going to be second quick, about a quarter of a second back. Third, Andrew Berry, defending series champion at a 1 minute 17.767. He's already a third of a second back. Good run for Simon Fell in the 256 out of Corte Madera, California. He says he goes slow, but not quite if you're going to run 4th quick here at Motegi. Also, Stephen C. Thompson out of Carmel, Indiana. Not Carmel, that's the town in California by the sea. As Brian Labarge goes to the top of the charts, 1:17.05, new quick time. Andrew Berry moving up to second quick. Well, he was third quick. Stephen C. Thompson jumps to second. Wes Shire, the 2-time champion of the TNT Shock Series, says he's a D&D live streamer and coffee enthusiast. Both of those are accurate. Let's see who else we want to pick up here. Well, the guy who was at the center of attention for a couple of incidents last weekend, Kylo Ciacelli. I talked to him a little bit pre-race. He said he was trying to be more aggressive. Wow, nice save to keep that car on the rumble strips. I think that keeps well, it doesn't really matter anyway because this is the outlap, but nice save there by Kylo. He is very aggressive on the racetrack, and that's something that I think as a driver coach, you're better off to be able to say, well, how about let's woe this up a little bit. Let's pull back on the reins, as opposed to having to say, come on, let's go. You can hustle the car faster.
Yeah, being naturally aggressive is definitely a good thing, especially if you want to climb up, win races. But sometimes it comes to bite you, and, that's not a way to make a lot of friends on the racetrack, which maybe isn't so important in winning a race and doing very good in the standings, but to win a championship, sometimes you need friends out there. Someone who, maybe if they aren't in points contention to win the championship later on and you're right behind them, they'll let you by because they've got nothing to lose by letting you by. And, you help me out, I'm going to help you out here in the end and help you try and win this thing. So it's definitely a way to play, and we'll see how it works out for him as the season progresses.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting in the conversation I had with him. It was kind of like I was really up on the chip last week. This week is more about kind of getting centered. This is a little bit more For the guys who run the Indy Pro 2000 Championship, or what is now the U.S. Open Wheel C Championship, this is kind of the bread and butter type racetrack. Wide, this is not quite a Tilkedrome, but it has some of that feel to it. They run these types of places week in and week out. Ovals, they're down to 2 of them in a season. They used to run 3, but that's not the the stuff they did every week. So it's going to be interesting to see what Kylo Ciacelli is able to do tonight. Also on the racetrack, Alex Teeter, and how about it? New quick time, Nagisa Yoshikawa, first car in the 16s. 1 minute 16.75 for the Chicago, Illinois native. He's the driver and setup builder for these cars, for Team Watson Racing setups.
Nagisa, not only fantastic on the iRacing side, he's a real-world kart driver, too. So all of his sim time is just practice for the real-world stuff. And it shows he's got some talent out there. And I think maybe we should keep an eye on him in the real world, too.
Yeah, he says he's a Merlin Kart USA driver in the 206 class. So, good stuff, man. It's nice when these guys tell us a little bit about themselves so we can, talk about them and maybe even cheer their exploits a little bit. Down to 2 minutes left. Lap number 2 for Nagisa goes even faster, 116.560. He's got a half second on the rest of the field. Brian Labarge, 49 hundredths back. Oh my goodness, what can Kylo Ciacelli do here working lap number 2? He's about 8/10 of the lap completed here. Just a couple of more corners to go. Alex Teeter just finishing up his run. Oh, and there you go. Kylo is going to call an end to it. No mas, says Mr. Ciacelli in car number 93. Rick Cleary still has time to get a lap in, but not much. He would have to get out onto the racetrack pretty quickly here. 20 cars on the entry list tonight. As usual, a fantastic showing here from the TNT Shock Series. And this is one of those leagues, Patrick, we talked about it with the Sim Racers Club a little bit. They keep a strong field consistently throughout the season. These guys are going to be running until May, I think it is, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it as you spread the races out. But I think that long season of, kind of every other week or so, it's a great way to keep guys interested and keep them coming around every week. Well,
not only that, but 90% of the names we see here on this qualifying board run the official races for this car. They love this car in and out. This is a very tight-knit, kind of small community in the grand scheme of iRacing, very similar to Lotus 49 or the 79 guys. So huge talent. All of these guys are racing each other week in, week out. They know each other, know how they race, and they come here to this league, and it's almost kind of relaxed time, except there's actual prizes to win. This season we have a drawing for a wonderful handmade watch. So it puts a little bit on the table, but still just not enough to make it crazy where everyone is at each other's throats. So they have a good time racing each other.
Yeah, I like that it's a draw for the championship prize, so to speak, the big prize overall. It's a participation trophy, a really badass participation trophy, but it's a participation trophy. Show up. I think you get 2 drop weeks. You got to run, I think, 13 of 16 or something like that. It's really a nice way to do it. Kudos to Jason Owens, the entire TNT Council group, and especially Wes Shire, who is doing the work putting this watch together. It could be purty, but it's time to get down to the grid and see, well...
I was going to say, if you want to support Wes Shire, you mentioned he was a D&D streamer. He's got his page, Tales from Rukon. That's Rukon, I believe. It's fantastic. Those guys are a blast to just watch. It's ridiculous. It's everything you could want from a D&D game without actually sitting there and playing it yourself.
Yeah, actually, and very good storytelling. That's the part that I like watching these guys. Now, I'm kind of wondering here, Patrick, I think we have a standing start coming. The way they're gridded up, there's no pace car.
I was going to say, the pace car is in pit road. This
is a standing start. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. 45 seconds. Let's get you the starting lineup. Yoshikawa Labarge, row 1. Stephen C. Thompson, Kylo Ciacelli, row 2. Westshire, Jason Miller, row 3. Andrew Berry, Nick Camargo, row 4. Simon Fell, James Watson, row 5. Row 6, Jason Owens and Vic Aldrich. Row number 7, Alex Teeter, Jason Paydu, Ben Carswell, Jacob Jans on row 8. Dave Sparks, Zach Nurnberger on row 9. Row 10, Peter Donchak and Rick Cleary. 15 seconds, the lights are going to go green. We're just waiting on Kylo Ciacelli to get out onto the grid. He's there. Lights will come up. They're out. And, well, okay. Now they're out. Away we go. Oh, great start. Oh, Westshire almost spins it. Damn near got the car looped around.
Wes, it almost looked like he jumped the start compared to these guys. He got off so much faster than everyone else, but of course, obviously he was spinning the tires a little bit.
Watson way up the inside. He's going to try to go 4 for 1 into turn 1. One car sliding off the racetrack. That's going to be Stephen C. Thompson. He's off into the kitty litter. Following along, Andrew Berry, Westshire, James Watson, Nick Camargo. Everybody getting single file through the S's. No other issues. Stephen C. Thompson back on the racetrack. He's got 50 minutes left to go. Oh my goodness, that's how you fire one of these races up. Trouble for Brian Labarge. He has a quick little off-track incident. Stephen C. Thompson already coming around Rick Cleary towards the back of the pack. Brian Labarge battling Kylo Ciacelli. Ciacelli down to the inside. He wants a piece of Nagisa Yoshikawa. Oh, we got a couple of cars going off. Alex Teeter, Jason Owens getting off the racetrack. They're both going to head to the back of the field as well. Owens back on the racetrack. Teeter back on the racetrack. Rick Cleary also getting back onto the racetrack. Alex Teeter, it looks like entering pit lane. He's going to come in getting some service. Nagisa Yoshikawa, a 2-second lead over Kylo Ciacelli. I think we can breathe. Maybe.
It's safe. I can breathe.
Possibly. You've probably just been chugging beer that entire time, though. So, big dive into the corner by Brian Labarge.
Yes, we're at a Japanese track tonight, so I picked up some Asahi Dry for tonight. A fantastic brew out of Japan.
I didn't think about that. I should have gotten some Sapporo. I love me some Sapporo.
Sapporo is fantastic. If you have not had an Asahi Dry, it's like a Sapporo, but it pairs much better with a lot of fish. Which is what I had for dinner tonight.
I was saying, good thing I had beef for dinner, so... Anyway. We're 3 minutes in and off the rails completely. Nagisa Yoshikawa has led both laps thus far, sitting at a 1.8-second advantage over new quick time Kylo Ciacelli, 1 minute 17.461. Brian Labarge giving Kylo a little bit of the hustle there through turns 3 and 4. I do love the couple sets of S's you have here. It makes the place a little bit technical. Motegi's interesting because you can run the oval and the road course at the same time. They are two completely separate layouts. And basically all that happens is the road course runs underneath the oval in a couple of places. You kind of duck out into the infield of the oval, then you turn right back out again.
Theoretically, you can. However, they do share a pit lane.
No, they don't. We're actually, we're coming to the interesting part because there's the pit entrance just on now the left-hand side of your screen. It is a 180-degree hairpin onto
that is right.
pit lane.
We are running the East Circuit.
Yes, that's correct. The East layout you can run. Probably should have specified on that. But yeah, you can run the east layout at the same time as the oval. Here's one of the spots. This camera actually mounted on the road course, right in the middle of turns 1 and 2. Duck out into the infield briefly, and then you hook right back out of the infield again.
That cameraman, fantastically fast on that zoom control, because holy crap, I have tried to do that, and it is difficult.
It's amazing what happens when you tell a computer to do the work for you.
Oh my goodness, why don't we do that in the real world? Like those hockey cams that follow the puck.
Yes. I don't know that I want AI replacing my camera ops.
Well, I'd be out of a job, that's for sure.
Yeah. Pretty quickly at that, too. New fastest lap of the race belongs to Nagisa Yoshikawa, 1 minute 17.08. Let's take a look. Gotta say a huge shout. Thank you to everybody that's watching on YouTube, watching on Twitch. Make sure you get the comments. Let us know who you are, where you're watching from. We'll get your comments up on the air. Also, oh, wait a minute. Let's take a look here and back this bus up a little bit. Jason Miller, Brian Labarge, Andrew Berry going to war here. Let's have a little bit of fun here. One of our last shows before the Christmas holiday, and it's coming in the middle of Hanukkah, so a large percentage of the American population will be celebrating a holiday this weekend. What is on our Christmas list? And you can also give the Santa wish list of shit that you're never going to get, but it still would be cool to have.
I asked Santa for some euros because I'm going to Ireland on the 27th. Santa promptly said, "No, I'm not driving the Queens to go and exchange currency."
That is correct. You want to do that there. You want to do that there anyway. Get a better exchange rate.
Of course you do. But I thought it would have been a fun Christmas gift.
But don't do it in the airport either. The airport's going to screw you on the exchange rate.
I don't think I'm going to do it at all. I'm going to use my my card for everything. I've got no foreign transaction fees.
Yeah, it's still not as much fun as picking up a couple of euros, though.
Ah, that is true.
So, the battle we're watching here is Brian Labarge, Andrew Berry, Wes Shire, Jason Miller just up ahead of them. Kylo Ciacelli is kind of holding serve with Nagisa Yoshikawa, both sitting about 1.8 seconds or so. Oh, buddy, how about it? Wes Shire, Andrew Berry. They're getting a little frisky back here. Couple of issues on the racetrack. Let's take a look and go back to... let's see. We'll pick up... We're seeing Rick Cleary having an issue here. Take a look at the Hot Shoe Racewear Instant Replay. Trying to get the car spun back around, but he was having some off-track excursions and finally having to take the tow back into the pit area. Also, Dave Sparks having an issue on the racetrack as well.
You know, Chris, I just put some thought to it.
Ooh.
And...
Lock him up. Nice save.
Ooh. Kept it off the walls. So, if I could have anything for Christmas, there is a very certain Acura for sale on Bring a Trailer right now.
Yes. An Acura I would consider bidding on until you watch the video of what it takes to start it, and it's 4 people in about 8 minutes. Once you get it started the first time for the day, it's good to go. But the first time of the day you want to start, like you go out in the morning and it's 20 degrees outside, you're going to take the new Acura to work. You need 3 buddies there to help you get the thing cranked over.
Yes, as someone who works on engines that run very similarly to that, the clearances between the crankshaft and all of the rods is about 0.4 of a thousand. That's about a tenth of the thickness of a human hair. Once it heats up, there's adequate clearance, about 0.2 or 2 thou. But that's not there when it's very cold out. So you really have to heat the oil up. You have to pump the oil through the engine, circulate it, make sure everything is good. And then once it is, you're good to go. Until you want to leave work for the day and the car hasn't run for 8 hours.
That's correct. Yeah, then you need the same 3 buddies to come show up and help you out. First car coming down pit lane is going to be Vic Aldrich. Looks like he may have a little bit of damage there on the right front of that wing of that machine. He's going to get down and hit his marks here with 40 minutes and 22 seconds left on the clock. Let's slide back up here towards the front of the field, grab Jason Miller and Brian Labarge. Only a couple of car lengths separating those two as they head back out under the oval. Already 10 minutes into this one, still 40 minutes left to go. My count, at least what the data is telling me, is about 32 laps to go on this one. Lap times at about the 1 minute 17 or so range. Let's see. Vic Aldrich having another issue here. Oh, we got bigger troubles out on the racetrack. Nick Camargo, Simon Fell having an issue. Let's take a look here, see what happened. The AJ running 5-6 car lengths ahead of Simon Fell. Overcooks it, little self-spin. Oh, nowhere for Simon to go. They're going to get hooked together. That's going to take some work to get those two cars unsettled from each other. Both of those guys now on pit lane. This is still a nice little battle here with Miller, Labarge, Shire, Andrew Berry. And oh, how about it? Big bobble from the Gisa Yoshikawa has allowed Kylo Ciacelli to close up to about a third of a second back. Coming up after this race, if you're interested, this one will not be broadcast. I'll be driving, actually. But we are having a Rest Easy VIR Oak Tree race. Look for that one onto the Open hosted on iRacing.
Yes,
I don't know what we're running, but
it will be Formula V's. I will be driving my Formula V right to Oak Tree, parking up right next to it, and sharing a beer with it. I will possibly also be parked on the Apex, so if you do choose to join, just watch out for a questionably painted Formula V.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have to check my paint scheme on the Formula V there. I may be driving something patently offensive, but...
that's the point.
Yeah, pretty much.
A little red rocket.
Yes.
And that's as far as I'm going with that one.
Stay away. So if you're one of these guys here, Patrick, Miller, Labarge, Shire, Berry, you're running 6 seconds back of the race leader. You're kind of managing your own pace. Is there any incentive to really push for a position here if you're Wes? I mean, tuck out. If the opportunity presents itself, go for it. But if it's not there, it's just not there.
I definitely think there is. It may seem like a long race. We've got 36 minutes left. However, if you're if you're faster than the guy in front of you, he's costing you time every single lap. And with 36 minutes to go, that's a lot of laps, and that's a lot of time you're losing to where you get in front of him, you can start to pick back at that time.
Well, how about it? New race leader, Kylo Ciacelli, coming past Nagisa Yoshikawa. They were separated by a fair bit here. See what happened. Oh, big wiggle for Yoshikawa. Allows Ciacelli to come past easily out of the first set of S's. Now Kylo opening up about a 1 second gap here as we're down to 36 minutes left to play. move back to this battle here. Brian Labarge losing a couple of spots to Wes Shire and Andrew Berry. Jason Miller able to hold on to the third spot. Let's take a look and come up with the pass here. See what happened to Brian Labarge. Oh, there it is. Big bobble. That's all it takes. The little bit of a miscue off corner exit allowed Andrew Berry to take the draft, pull up the inside, and then blast down the front straightaway with the help of Wes Shire's toe.
Yeah, this track is unforgiving. You mess up one corner and your whole lap is pretty much done.
Man, big dive into the corner there by Berry to grab the spot. How you get it done, though? And we've seen this battle before. Wes Shire, oh, wow, big wiggle for Wes Shire. Andrew Berry now going to come past for fourth. See if Labarge is going to be able to do anything with the toe. He might. Man, Berry really chops the nose off of Wes Shire. That was one of the, I'll say, bones of contention that came out of last week's race. There was a lot of aggressive driving and not necessarily blocking, but the preemptive maneuvers, as you call them, even just taking the air off of somebody's wing. More just frustrating to the drivers seeing this happening with a half hour left in the race. If there's a couple of laps to go, different story. Happening early in the race?
That is entirely my opinion as well. I'm a big fan of the Bizzle. You know, you pull out, make that defensive move, drop down low before the driver behind you has a chance to go for the overtake. You kind of do it at the same time as them if you time it right, and it throws them way off. It's not necessarily dirty, but in the beginning of the race, it's just unnecessary. About 6 out of 10 times, it ends in a wreck, either with you wrecked or them wrecked. So it's not something I would say, go out and do this every lap, every time a guy wants to pass you, but 4 or 5 laps to go and you're battling for the lead, it's a fair move. It's within the rules, and it's something you can do. But I don't want to call the move dirty, but it's definitely a, we'll call it a rooster type of move early in the race.
Yeah, it's a, well, you're not going to make any friends. And that was sort of the discussion we've had is at times you kind of just have to make friends out there. And you're not going to do it with the dive bombs and cutting noses off and stuff.
And I love a driver who I know for the first 45 minutes of this race, I can race clean, we can work together, make our ways to the front, we're good friends. And then we get all the way to the front, and okay, boys have at it, we battle it out, and whatever happens, happens. But that's all is fair in love and war, right? So that's kind of the fun of it. But you can't be pulling moves like that early in the race and expecting to make friends out there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Take a look. This is the tightest battle, by the way. Ben Carswell about 0.8 of a second back of Zach Nurnberger. Everybody else is multiple seconds apart from each other. Dave Sparks having to take the toe into pit lane. The AJ Camargo is out of the race, as is Simon Fell. Rick Cleary also going to be out of the race. That's going to have some, at least early season championship implications here. The AJ having a decent season. He entered the night 10th in points. Alex Teeter also having some issues tonight. He's running in the 15th position. He entered the night 6th in points. The big one, though, Stephen C. Thompson. Let's follow his march back through the field. You saw him spin at lap number 1. He entered the night as your points leader, sitting 84 markers and 8 points ahead of Andrew Berry in the second position. Berry having a decent run tonight. Brian Labarge having a decent run tonight. Those guys were 2-3. James Watson entered the night 4th in points. He runs 7th on the racetrack. Here's Nee Camargo checking in the comments here. And Unfortunately, some of the same stuff we saw last week. Had to leave, my repair was too long. Spun out, and the netcode decided that Simon's car was part of mine. Yeah, that's the hard part, is when the netcode gods do not smile on you. Not a real fun spot to be in.
There's some drivers who are very familiar with their internet service provider and know what situations cause the netcode gods to smile on them and what cause the netcode gods to not like them very much. And they know how to use that to their advantage. It's very similar to using a lag switch in like CSGO, except you're not using a switch of any type, you just know the limits very, very well.
Yes, that's a big part of this is there's some, I will say, games that use predictive technologies for the positioning of race cars. iRacing is using actual positions of race cars, and where the difference lies is there is always latency. Even if it's being measured in 1 or 2 milliseconds, there's still latency. So you start adding up the latency of everybody in the room. Now all of a sudden you have something that is, 30, 40, 50 milliseconds. That's enough to where the cars would have hit anyway, like we talked about last week. They were going to make contact one way or the other. It just so happened of when the server decided that contact happened.
Yeah, I am very fortunate in my positioning here right outside of New York City is iRacing's main server farms are in Boston. And the time slots of races I race in typically end up on the Boston server because that's when everyone here is awake and on iRacing. So I have very, very low latency to them. But you get a guy that's down in Florida or our guy Naiji, he's way down in Brazil. But he's racing at our time slot, which, of course, Brazil is only a time zone ahead of us. His internet's got to go all the way up to Boston and all the way back down to him, where mine's only got to go 100 or so miles up to Boston and back down to me. So that's where the distance lies.
Man, this battle is still absolutely fantastic. Good battle here. Good battle for the race lead as well. Nagisa Yoshikawa has caught back up to Kylo Ciacelli. They're going to be about a car length and a half apart here. Let's see if the lap traffic's going to come into play. Jason Owens having an issue. Let's take a look and see. He is back on the racetrack, actually just ahead of the race leaders here. Show you the Hot Shoe Racewear instant replay. See what happened to Owens. Overcooks the corner entry a little bit. A little quick to the throttle. Loopity-loop. No harm, no foul, but he's going to be right in front of the race leaders now.
Now, relevant to the previous conversation, I just had a thought which is relevant to Naiji's and Simon's contact. Is Naiji is all the way down in Brazil. Simon, if I remember correctly, is out in California. So if this race is on the Boston server, both of them have an immense amount of time for their data to be sent to Boston, processed, sent back to them, processed again, over and over and over again. So it's not the distance between San Francisco and Brazil you're measuring. It's the distance from San Francisco to Boston to Brazil and back around that you're measuring between those two drivers. And it is an incredible amount of time when it comes down to it. It's probably close to a quarter of a second, half a second, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, and it's amazing we're able to converse that quickly between parts of the world. But at the same time, when you're racing race cars, do you imagine going to your local karting track and you crash into a guy and then half a second later it hurts?
Yeah, that's where it starts to get a little hinky. By the way, we saw Nagisa Yoshikawa running in the second position on pit lane. Ben Carswell also on pit lane. We are just shy of halfway. Yoshikawa's going to have to do at least a little bit of fuel saving if he wants to make this last to the end. Let's take a look. Here comes race leader Kylo Ciacelli. He is on pit lane at 25 and a half minutes. He's not to halfway yet. It is so close. But you're going to have to do some fuel saving here if you're Kylo Ciacelli. Jason Miller, Brian Labarge also coming into the pit lane. Wes Shire, Andrew Berry staying out on the racetrack. They will get to the halfway point. That little bit of fuel saving, that's where it comes in. Now the effective battle for the race lead. Ciacelli inside Yoshikawa to turn 1. Oh, big slide from Ciacelli. What a save. Oh, man, chops right back off the nose of Yoshikawa. Middle of the corner. This is where Yoshikawa's got to get past and in a hurry. His tires are basically up to temperature. He's got a full lap on them. This is Kylo Ciacelli's out lap. Although, if you're Yoshikawa and you know you're going to have to save a little bit, I'll just sit here in your draft for the next 25 minutes or so and hope for the best.
Yeah, it's the Elaine Prost strategy over and over again. As much as I like to consider myself a Senna fan of just his raw driving style, the Prost strategy wins most of the time. You sit there, do the bare minimum it takes to win the race. You got there, win the race, collect the trophy, drink some champagne, go home and do it again. You can't beat it. Why do I need to be ahead of you, burning all my extra fuel, burning my tires off, when I can sit behind you, wait till there's 5 laps to go, pass you, and beat you by 1/10 of a second?
Yeah, that's the big one, is do enough to win. And right now, Kylo Ciacelli and Nagisa Yoshikawa are both going to have to do enough to win. It's only 7 seconds up the road to Andrew Berry, but Berry hasn't made his stop yet. So we know Wes Shire is good to go to the end on fuel. Andrew Berry will be good to go to the end. Jason Miller, Brian Labarge, all good to go to the end on fuel. The guys who are not are Kylo Ciacelli and Nagisa Yoshikawa. Actually, Miller and Labarge are also going to have to likely stop as well. The math is going to be at least 1 lap short on fuel. Here's Andrew Berry on pit lane. He's going to be able to do a little bit shorter of a stop as well. It'll be 4 fresh, is it Cooper tires? I think Cooper tires on this car. He is down and away, 6.75 seconds. Berry back out onto the racetrack, but he will not be able to hold the race lead. That will rotate back to Kylo Ciacelli. Now we have Wes Shire and Andrew Berry back nose to tail with a couple of lap cars in front. Jason Owens being one of them. Oh, and Owens! The big twitch, he's off into the gravel. Pucker Factor Zulu for Wes Shire. Let's take a look at that one. On board with Wes Shire. Hello, goodbye.
Jason Owens, when he sends payment for that watch, should also send over a pair of underwear.
Yes. Fresh pair of drawers to Wes Shire's address, please. See if Homestead Coffee has any merch.
I don't know where Wes Shire lives. However, if Lime Rock Park is running a race, you can be fairly certain to find Wes Shire hanging out there on the top of the hill.
Yes, Wes, a native of Poughkeepsie, New York, so not all that far from Lime Rock.
He convinced me to go to Lime Rock way back for IMSA about 2 years ago, and I've gone to just about every major event since. He owes me a bratwurst still from that time. With interest, he owes me 3 bratwursts now. I still have not received payment for one of them. I have had a Lime Rock bratwurst, though, and I will say, best bratwurst I ever had. If you haven't had it yet, there's a little cart that comes up when you go to Lime Rock for the big races. So fantastic.
That's a big call out to Road America there. You may have to get up to Road America to try a Road America bratwurst.
No, because Road America bratwurst is just a Johnsonville brat. I can buy that at my supermarket.
I don't know that that's always the case. If you go to the stands, yes, but you go to the tailgate parties in the infield and all, you get yourself like real Wisconsin bratwurst. Oh, so good.
Then I have to go to Wisconsin, though.
Yes, it's worth it. For cheese curds and bratwurst, and oh yeah, all-day racing at America's National Park of Speed.
Oh, they play bar dice in Wisconsin, don't they?
They do a lot of weird stuff in Wisconsin.
That sounds like it could be fun, actually.
Road trip, we're going to Wisconsin. To see Indy cars blast down into turn 5, yes, please.
That's where I'd park my behind the whole race. Either there or in Canada Corner. Canada Corner, not a fast track. Probably not an exciting corner as a spectator, but at the same time, that's where all the action happens. That's where the craziest passes are. It's a super fast straightaway with a kink into the most fantastic braking zone ever. You get a little bit of runoff, and God, it's the perfect corner.
Yes, it is. Let's take a look at some of the numbers here to see how Kylo and Nagisa are doing on the fuel saving. Looking at the 5-lap average, as both have now done 5 laps since their pit stops. 1 minute 17.0 for Kylo Ciacelli, 1:17.7 for Nagisa Yoshikawa. That 1:17.7 puts him a lot closer to Andrew Berry and Wes Shire's laps. Their 15-lap averages are about 1:17.6, 1:17.5. You're going to have to make that number of like 1:17.7 or so if these guys want to make it. In fact, it may have to be even closer to the 18s for Ciacelli and Yoshikawa to make it the rest of the way on fuel.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to back it down a bit on pace, which obviously they don't want to do because there's a bunch of cars behind them that are ready to pounce. If they can catch up to the gearbox, that is.
Well, yeah, they're 12 seconds back at this point. That's the key for Ciacelli and Yoshikawa. Just seeing a move on the racetrack. Andrew Berry getting around Wes Shire for the 3rd position. There's Wes having a little bobble off track. Oh, and we've got more going on. Brian Labarge having an issue as well here. Take a look at the Hot Shoe Racewear instant replay. See what happened to Labarge. Kind of same deal, just a little bit too much too soon on the loud pedal.
I'm going to give that a 0. And all of the spectators thinks I'm being a jerk. But if Brian watches that, he'll know exactly what I mean by it. He's a big Smashing Pumpkins fan, as am I, and his profile picture may or may not be the album that song is from.
Nerds.
Yeah. I've wrecked 2 cars to that album.
Oh, hold on to it, Kylo. Big wiggle again out of Kylo Ciacelli.
Yoshikawa not able to capitalize on either.
Not able to or doesn't want to?
That might be it as well. I mean, if you can keep the pressure on him, he keeps making these moderate-sized mistakes. You get him to make one big mistake, and you don't got to worry about him for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I mean, Ciacelli Yoshikawa working now at a 1:17.4 for the 5-lap average. Still about 0.4 of a second quicker than what Andrew Berry's doing. Here's where the numbers start to get a little interesting, though. They can't have the bobbles, but right now it's 9.8 seconds and increasing between the 2 leaders and 3rd place Andrew Berry. They could open themselves enough of a gap to do a splash and dash with 3 to 5 minutes left, guarantee themselves good to the end. Might tighten things up a lot, but you're still going to be able to come out with the lead.
The only thing is, I don't know how long it takes to just drive down pit lane, but I know usually the average is about 40 seconds. So you have 40 seconds to drive down pit lane, entering and exiting, plus the 4 or 5 seconds you're going to sit in the box getting that splash and dash. I don't know if you could build 45 seconds in that time.
Well, the number's about 30 to 33 seconds is what I'm seeing for total pit lane time. Now, you do have to slow down. Correct. It's a shorter pit lane. And the way the in and out markers are set, you have to be down to pit road speed limit before you get to that hairpin corner. So that's probably a pretty accurate determinant of what your time is. Like you said, maybe about 35, 40 seconds. I don't know that they're going to build 40 seconds, but you also don't need that 30 to 35 seconds is assuming a full 6 second, 7 second pit stop. If you're only doing a 2 second stop, now you're down to that 25 to 30 seconds. It makes things interesting. I'll say it that way.
See a Sally with another big tank slapper, but that one managed to work out for him and set him up for the next corner. So, I don't know if that was intentional or not. I wouldn't try it again, but it looked pretty cool.
Tried it once, would recommend not trying it twice.
Oh, absolutely.
Down to 13 minutes remaining here in round number 5 of the TNT Shock Series. Go ahead.
Through that left sequence, how much they're cutting off that right-hand corner. Where you look at tracks like Spa, and you even look at the apron, and you get a 1X and a cutting corner. And here, they're getting, it looks like, all 4 tires in the grass. And they've been doing it lap after lap and completely fine. We'll have to watch them the next time they go by, but it seems like you can get away with it here in these cars.
You can get away with at least a little bit more than a lot of the tracks on iRacing. As we mentioned, they just passed at the point where the pit entry line starts. So you've got to be down to pit lane speed limit well before the corner. And there's the exit, right at where the pit lane ends and it rejoins onto the racetrack. So seeing Vic Aldrich, he was just doing a 5.6 second stop on pit lane. 30.88 seconds was the total time.
Yeah, watch them as they cut through this section. How much they cut off the, well, maybe it's not that section. Might be after this right-hander, next right-hander straight away, then it's left, right, left. But they're cutting chunks off that corner. No, it's not through here. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting it.
Yeah, I don't know that it's misinterpreting, but they are way up on the curves. And to your point, some of the corners at Spa, you breathe wrong getting into the corner, and it's going to give you a slowdown.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, that is where putting your practice in really makes the difference, is knowing where you can get away with cutting a little bit. Same way a rally co-driver goes 4 left, cut, 3 right, don't cut. They know where you can get away with taking a chunk out of the asphalt and where you have to stay on it 100%.
No other battles going on right now outside of Peter Donchak and Alex Teeter fighting for the 14th position. So we're going to stay right here with the race leaders as we're down to 10 minutes remaining. Trouble for Ben Carswell. Let's take a look, see what happened to Shadow Jesus here. He's got Stephen C. Thompson to the inside. Oh, a little too much. Little too much. No harm there.
So we have a driver's input on my ramblings about cutting the corner. Naiji Camargo saying it's just under the underpass, so we'll see turn 1 here, then there'll be turn 2, and that's the underpass. He says it's second corner, you need to cut there, but if you cut too much, you get a nasty slowdown. I think that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, you're grabbing a bunch.
Right, left, and then through this right-hander, you can see how much of the curb they grab.
Yep. And it's almost using the curb to kind of unsettle the back of the car a little bit. To kind of slide you through the corner so you're quicker on exit.
That is absolutely how you have to drive these, and it always blew people's minds when I would share my setup, especially on the oval side, is not only would they be a left-hand down setup, so usually on an oval, right hand's down, the car wants to turn left on the straightaways. My setups are a little bit of the opposite. But the car also wants to oversteer on quarter exit, which is very undesirable on an oval. But with these cars, you can be so much faster doing that if you're willing to handle the car wanting to kill you every lap. Just because it helps you get that exit off. You can roll onto the power much more aggressively if you're willing to put a little bit of oppo lock into it.
A little bit of oppo lock. There is no such thing. That is either full or, lock. You're going all the way. But that is how you like to drive the car, though.
Yes. So I run with a very... So these cars are only like 360 degrees steering. Basically just one turn around on the wheel. So, real quick, just flicking it out of the corner, you kind of just tap that 180, bring it back to center, and the car is mint. Problem, it just takes a ton of timing, ton of precision, and for a sprint race, I could probably get away with it, but I've tried it in some of these 50-minute races, and it gets tiring, and one lap, you just lose the focus, and car snaps around on you and ends up ruining the race.
Yeah, I don't have the skill for that.
That was way back in Season 1, where I finally figured that kind of setup out, when Oisin Walsh was racing. I think this was before even NRN was broadcasting these races.
That is correct. I ran in that first season with Oisin, and
that was the only race. He ended up finishing a lap ahead of everyone, but it was both me and him lap the field. I was a 10th behind. That's the closest I've ever been to Oisin Walsh. That dude was a menace with how fast he was. Doing so good, so good, so good. I got a little bit of his aero wash that screwed up the timing with the snapping it back to oppo lock and straight again, and just killed the whole night with like 5 minutes to go. It was miserable, but I was so proud of myself for just keeping up with Oisin for that long. And these cars are a ton of fun because you do get those crazy guys who figure out the set of packs, how weird these cars drive. And they're way fast, kind of like these top two are. But you can see how shaky their cars are compared to some of the rest of the field.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because both of these guys are running a Team Watson Racing setup initially developed by Nagisa Yoshikawa. Kylo Ciacelli does a lot of running with Chris Preston. I think his Limo Boys Racing is their team, kind of under the banner of Team Watson Racing. They do their own individual setup tweaks and get the sets built to their personal liking. And that's what you're seeing here. This is not a fixed setup race. This is two guys that have absolutely dialed these setups in. We ran here last season in the officials. This is coming into play big time tonight with relatively minor changes to this car, if any, coming into 2023 Season 1.
Yeah, they updated the car and broke my setup pack, so I quit running the car. Not because it's not a good car. It's just my setup pack quit working and I started losing races.
Well, yeah, it's funny. There was one night a very offhanded comment was made by Oisin Walsh, and it was like light bulbs went off with multiple drivers going, wait a minute, what did he just say? And then you started looking at their own setups and going, I see how he did it. That instantaneously closed the field up. And really, we've had very tight fields since then. It's fun to watch here, guys like Kylo and Nagisa battle it out. There's going to be more coming. I mean, we're off next week.
Kylo with another huge misstep.
Off next week for the holiday. We come back. Actually, we don't come back till January 10th with a race at Richmond. Yes, please. Richmond Raceway, these cars are fantastic at. So a little bit of time off for the TNT Shock Series after 4 minutes and 20 seconds of racing still to go here at Motegi.
But yeah, I kind of figured out Oisin's setup pack, and even before Tanner, the guy who was making the iRacing official setups, figured it out. And once everyone figured it out, it was like, I've got no advantage anymore. And then they patched the car so you couldn't abuse that. The trick was to get the left front shock offset just into the yellow on the minimums. And if you did that, the car ended up like a 32% cross weight. It wanted to kill you the entire time, but it was fast.
Yeah, that's one of the things that iRacing still has the issue with, and it quite frankly drives me nuts. The setups that you just couldn't run in the real world absolutely work on iRacing. I get that there is a set amount of suspension travel that these cars can have in the real world and all. The problem is you don't have the forces. Like, the driver's teeth would be rattling out with some of these setups. They would just be undrivable. But in the sim world, you don't have to deal with that. So, you know, the physical demands on the driver.
That's like the porpoising that made the Mercedes F1 car so undrivable this year. It's not that the car wasn't fast. That car was probably a championship-winning car if you had a robot behind the wheel. The problem is you put actual drivers behind the wheel, and that porpoising is just plainly uncomfortable. It's not fun to drive a car that's shaking your fillings out and rattling your brain the entire time. It's like driving a Freightliner semi-truck filled with marbles. It wears you out a lot quicker than a normal race car would.
Seeing Stephen C. Thompson having an issue, Wes Shire also having an issue. He slides off wide. He's going to give up the time to Andrew Berry, but Wes going to be able to hold on for fourth here as we're down to 2 minutes left.
That was a very, very typical Wes wreck. It just stepped out, got into the marbles, back on the track. And that's exactly how he would respond to that, too. Very to the point.
Yeah, should be 2 laps to go here as we're working about 1:17 laps for Kylo Ciacelli and Nagisa Yoshikawa. So there should be about 30 seconds or so left on the clock when these guys come around. When does Nagisa make the move? I would assume they're both good on fuel here. The averages say maybe, maybe not. Are we going to have to see either of Kylo Ciacelli or Nagisa Yoshikawa come down pit lane? Still just 60 seconds left to go here at the Motegi East Road Course. This time by, neither one hits pit lane, so they're going to make the run at it.
Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make it to the checker. They could run out of fuel at any moment.
You would think, at least you're not going to give up the shot at the win to come down pit lane and take fuel. And if anybody's going to be good on fuel, it's going to be Nagisa. He's been in line the entire time. Leaders catching up on Ben Carswell.
Lap car could shake this up. Known sports car hater Ben Carswell and running to shake this race up.
Known sports car hater. That was very GT3 of you there, Ben. Well done clearing out of the way for the race leaders. Time has...
It's not going to work for you much longer. You keep saying stuff like that.
Time has expired. This is the final lap of the race. One corner left to go. Does Yoshikawa have anything? Does he make the dive bomb? He's going to try the crossover. Off the final corner, twin checkers in the air. And Kylo Ciacelli gets the win at Motegi East. Nagisa Yoshikawa, a 1/10 of a second back at the finish. Andrew Berry making the run down. He will claim third. Wes Shire coming home to finish fourth, and Jason Miller off the final corner. He will claim the 5th position here this evening, but there is Kylo Ciacelli, your race winner. I would say a little bit of redemption after the race 1 week ago. Good run here tonight, and like we said in the pre-race, he was aggressive tonight. He was not giving a lot of room to Nagisa Yoshikawa, willing to take some air off the front of the car as needed, really pushed hard. It was an aggressive drive for Pilot 93, but all in all, he picks up the dub. That's what matters here in the TNT Shock Series, and as he finishes up, let's take a look at our race results here this evening. Ciacelli by 98 hundredths of a second over Nagisa Yoshikawa. Andrew Berry coming home third.
That's real close for road course.
That's tight. It was a great run. It was fun watching those two battle all night. Wes Shire, Jason Miller round out the top 5. 6 through 10 going to be Brian Labarge, James Watson, Jacob Jans, Stephen C. Thompson, and Zach Nurnberger. Ben Carswell, Jason Paydu, Vic Aldrich, Peter Donchak, Alex Teeter back to the 15th position. 16 through 20 here this evening will be Jason Owens, Dave Sparks, Nieje Camargo, Simon Fell, and Rick Cleary. Nuremberger in 10th, the final car on the lead lap here this evening. Race that took 50 minutes to run because it was a timed race. Actually, it was actually about 50 minutes and 45 seconds based on where they crossed the line. Kylo Ciacelli leading 27 laps tonight. Nagisa Yoshikawa leading 10. Andrew Berry, Wes Shire each picking up a lap lead. That will be good for a bonus point here in the TNT Shock Series. And let's take a look here and see who we can find, who we got ready for our Victory Lane interviews. We'll start things off here with... let's see. Got to figure out where I want to start the replays at. There we go. Let's do this one, and we'll pick up Kylo Ciacelli. And let's see. Well, I don't see Kylo here in the room yet. I thought I saw him. So let's pick up Mr. Nagisa Yoshikawa, our runner-up finisher here this evening. And, man, I'll tell you what, Nagisa, that car, it looked good. Kylo gave you a little bit of a shot there into the final corner to try to drag him off. But it was really an interesting race here because you were kind of keeping things close. I would imagine fuel was pretty tight. A lot going on behind the wheel of that 98 machine tonight.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating. I ended up losing the lead to Kylo because my screen went black for like 30 seconds in the chicane, so that's what that was. And then just I don't know what I was doing differently, but I was like out of fuel when I came in for my first stop. Because I'm not sure how people were going that long, but it's just frustrating because I think we had a really quick car, but just ended up stuck in fuel saving for the whole race, and I was out of fuel coming across the line, so not much I could do.
Well, yeah, okay, so it was as tight as it looked. It's going to be interesting to hear what Kylo has to say on that one because it seemed like everybody was really tight on fuel there at the end. Talk us kind of through how the race goes when you have that kind of moment because the screen goes black, things come back on. It's a technical issue like you might have in the real world, a bad bolt or something, glitchy happens with the car. But it's got to be difficult to kind of recenter yourself when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, obviously could have been way worse. I didn't really lose too much from it, but just the fuel saving was the main burden in that race. Like I said, it felt like we had a really good car, but I'm surprised actually that I was able to keep Kylo that close because he went a lap longer on the first stint. So it was really just about saving fuel as much as I can, but also like managing the gap. And yeah, it didn't work out perfectly in the end, but could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse, and quite frankly, a spectacular points night for you as well. It's going to see you jump up in the standings in a big way. So, congratulations on the runner-up finish here tonight. And before we let you go, get all those sponsor plugs and thank yous in.
Yeah, obviously, Team Watson Racing and Team Watson Racing Setups. Big thanks to them. As always, check them out. Um, I always say, all the other drivers kept it nice and clean tonight, and you guys for putting on the broadcast. So um, yeah, thanks to everyone.
All right, bud. Well, thank you much. We appreciate it. Having you check in with us here, and let's take a look, and we'll pick up Mr. Andrew Berry, our third place finisher here this evening. And I'm going to say best in class. I don't think anybody was getting up near Nagisa and Kylo tonight, but all in all, not a bad night there for car number one.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was I really goofed the qualifying, so it put me back at the start of the race. If I'd I don't know, maybe if I'd had a better qualifying lap, I might have had a shot at the top two. But yeah, I felt like I had them on at least. I was right there on pace on the second half of the race, but I just wasn't there early, so kind of put me behind. But yeah, it wasn't. Definitely could have been a worse race.
Yeah, and you had a fun battle going on with Wes. Both of you guys seem to be having your fair share of minor miscues until Wes kind of really got off track there late in the race. Has to be fun battling him. It seems like week in and week out, you two can't get away from each other.
Yeah, we seem to be really close to each other. Really close to each other the whole season so far. So it's definitely interesting. It's good to see Nagisa up there. Kylo getting a win in without wrecking the field is always nice. Yeah, overall not a bad race.
Well, and you're going to leave as the points leader as well. The gap was only 8 heading into tonight over Stephen C. Thompson. He finishes in the 9th position. So now you're back in full title defense mode here as we take a couple of weeks off as we get to Richmond.
Yeah, it should be fun. Richmond's a good track in this car, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you much for checking in with us. We appreciate it. And before we let you go, get any sponsor plugs and thank yous taken care of.
I just want to thank everyone for putting on the race, and it was a good time.
All right, buddy. Thank you much. We appreciate you checking in with us here. And let's bring in our race winner here tonight, Mr. Kylo Ciacelli. And, man, I'll tell you what, bud, the car was good. Great battle with Nagisa there. How tight were you on fuel on that last lap, though?
Chris, I ran out as I crossed the pace car. first putter heading down into turn one. That's how close it was. That's how tight we are on the fuel there. It was really close the whole time, and I just really had to back off. Lots of lift and coast, even up in front, and managed to keep it ahead of Nagisa. He got really close a couple of times, but able to fend him off and keep the lead there, even save enough fuel.
Yeah, and it seemed like it was one of those nights that if once you got in front, it was going to be not necessarily easy to stay there, but it was about not making the mistakes. You still made your fair share of them. I mean, that car was all over the place. Were you just running no downforce on it or what? Because corner exit, you were twitchy and had a handful.
I would like to nominate my right foot for my issues tonight. Just a little bit too happy sauce on the gas pedal. That's all it was, really. Using a lot of curbs, and the curbs end up being slippy, and then the grass is there on this track. It's not asphalt runoffs for everywhere, so really punishes you when you do that. But trying to get every inch when you're losing so much time in the straights, you really got to make up and make sure you get that exit so the car behind isn't close enough, and just pushing it and making sure that we didn't go too far, and we didn't.
Well, congratulations on picking up the win here tonight. And before we let you go, get all those sponsor plugs and thank yous done.
Yeah, of course. Shout out to you guys up in the booth for the broadcast tonight. Wasn't up there with you. Looking to be up there again for a couple of the ovals later in the year. We'll see how it goes. Team Watson Racing and Team Watson Race setups. Thanks to Nagisa for the Rocket PM18 we had tonight. Both of us were clearly ahead of the field, and I'd like to thank him for that. Get us out there. Of course, Limo Boys Racing. I had Chris and Kyle spotting for me, trying to keep me up on the fuel numbers and just keeping me in check as I was going through the race, and everybody else on the car. Title sponsor, DeChaco Farms, and Pit Viper, Petro Canada, and the Cannabis Retail Store. Thanks, guys.
All right, bud. Thank you much. We appreciate you checking in with us here. And, man, I'll tell you what, one of the ovals out of the way here for the TNT Shock Series. They only do a couple of them. Let's take a look here. I can't even look at that schedule. It doesn't do me any good. Let's see. Next road course for these guys is going to be the Homestead Roval on April 4th. So we
Which
got
Homestead Roval?
A.
Darn, I think I like B better. I don't remember which one's which. I think A uses part of the oval, B uses none of the oval.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm gonna have to build cameras for it at some point, but yeah, we don't go to another road course until April. Then we have two in the span of a month. We go May 2nd to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Possibly that could be a wild card as well, depending on what new content gets released for iRacing. But a lot coming up here. Richmond, January 10th, January 24th at Five Flags, and then off to Phoenix and Nashville Fairgrounds through the month of February. That'll be the next 4 races coming up here for the TNT Shock Series. Good night of racing here tonight. I think, Patrick, it's time for us to go screw off a little bit here now and pay tribute to the old VIR and the Oak Tree before they, shit can that one, I think, tomorrow.
Yes, unfortunately, Oak Tree not only dying close to a decade ago now, but in the sim world as well. The iRacing scan was an old scan. It's good we're getting a new scan, but my hope is they take some creative liberty and keep the Oak Tree there, and knowing iRacing, they're going to stay true to realism and no Oak Tree staying, so.
Yeah, that part sucks. But it is real, so there is no Oak Tree anymore, but still, would be nice to keep the layout.
We have a ton of Oak Tree out of the corner.
Yes.
Good shade for the spectator.
That is correct. But with that, it is time for us to get the heck on out of here. One more night of racing coming up before the Christmas break kicks in. But we'll do all the happy holidays and stuff tonight as well for those of you loyal TNT Shock Series viewers. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and anything else that you may be celebrating. We thank you very much. Hope you and your families have a very happy and blessed holiday season. For Patrick Byrne and everybody here at the National Racing Network that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, everybody. We will talk to you all on Thursday. See you later.